For more now on the UK election, let's take you to London, where CBS News senior foreign correspondent Mark Phillips joins me now. I gotta wonder, every time I repeat third general election in less than 5 years, there's got to be a certain amount of just election fatigue among voters.
I think there is very much election fatigue, and you could add to that, of course, the referendum vote that was 3.5 years ago as well. There was a famous man on the street, woman on the street interview done here before the last election of a woman in a city in the West saying, what, another one, another vote? And it's very much the case here. It's not an election which has been greeted enthusiastically, I think it's fair to say, by the electorate. What you're hearing around polling stations this morning is people saying they're voting for what they consider to be the least bad option. There are great negatives with both the major party leaders. Simon just referred to some about Boris Johnson. Jeremy Corbyn, who is the Labour leader here, has huge negatives. He's the least popular opposition leader since they started measuring that kind of thing here. So this is very much a least bad election, and with the polls closing, still showing a small gap in favor of Johnson and the Conservatives, the majority he needs to push through his Brexit option is not a given. We're going to have to wait and see whether this election solves anything.
So, Mark, give us a little, sort of basic level parliamentary politics 101, because I think some people may be watching and wonder, didn't Boris Johnson just become the prime minister? Why is there an election now? So give us the basics.
Well, he became the prime minister because he became the leader of the Conservative Party when it threw out the previous leader of the party, Theresa May. But he was never elected to the post. He won an internal contest within the party to become leader. This is the first time he's faced the electorate as the leader of his party, and the first time he would be elected per se as prime minister. But as I say, the whole issue, the general feeling is that he will get more votes than Labour and Jeremy Corbyn. The question is whether he gets enough more to form the majority, to push through his Labour deal, his Brexit deal, which he says he'll do by the end of January. But he needs a majority to do that, and that majority is still in the balance.
So, here we're really framing the conversation as a referendum on Brexit, right? But I'm wondering, for Britons, is it about Brexit solely, or are there other issues of concern?
Brexit is the dominant thing driving this election. It wouldn't be happening if it weren't for the stalemate over Brexit. Having said that, the opposition party has tried to turn it into something else. It's tried to turn it into a referendum about austerity and all the cuts in public services that took place during the 9 years of the Conservative government here. The Labour Party has promised massive public investment in services, the renationalization of major industries, the railways, the power companies, the water companies, that kind of thing. The biggest peacetime ever injection of the state into business in the country. And the question is whether, A, whether that caught the public's imagination, and B, whether the public was ready for that kind of a drastic change in the way Britain operates. The indications are Corbyn carries a lot of baggage. He's an old lefty from that side of the Labour Party. He was a problem on the doorstep when Labour candidates were canvassing, they had reported. So it's fair to say that issue did not supersede Brexit as the issue of that most people were considering when they're voting, and I think that has held true to the end.
All right, so before I let you go, in regards to Brexit, depending on who wins, though you say, it looks like Boris Johnson will be the next prime minister, continue to be the prime minister, is there a clear path forward in regards to Brexit? If he wins, what will happen? If he doesn't win, what will happen?
Well, it depends how he wins. If he wins with a majority, then he'll have the votes across the river here to push his divorce deal with the EU through. That's just the start of the process, though. That's the end of the beginning. There's still the whole trade deal to work out with how Britain will relate to the EU and what that means in terms of how it can work out its trade deals with the rest of the world following that. If Johnson does not get his majority, then we're back where we started from. The arguments within Parliament here as to what kind of Brexit there should be, and whether or not, this is the other major question, whether or not there ought to be, once the country knows the outline of the relationship, whether there ought to be another vote putting it to the people again.
Not another vote, Mark. Mark Phillips, thank you very much.
That's the famous quote, not another one.
Indeed, thank you.